To have passion in life is everything.
What's your Everest?
Oh,
Is it
yeah.
that 200-inch buck?
They just look so impressive when they're wide.
Especially running away.
Welcome to this week's episode of Eastman's Elevated.
It's like a think tank for outdoor activity.
Sounds exactly like my hunting. Just always thinking about it, always trying to evolve it and make it better.
Here's your host, Brian Barney.
Hey, what's happening, guys? Got a brand new Eastman's Elevated for you. So on today's podcast, I have Ike Eastman sit in, and we welcome back Phil from Zamberlan Boots. Phil is an absolute wealth of knowledge. I swear Phil knows everything about boots and shoes. I'm always quoting information from our podcast, and I just get such a great understanding about the construction of materials, the fit, the break-in period, the insoles, like you name it, we talk about it on this podcast. And so it's just a great one to understand your preferences and needs for Western hunting. And Phil is also, he's an adult onset bow hunter, so he's come back to bow hunting and he's really embraced the process. And so we talk about that as well, as he is all in trying to get close to these animals. So that's fun as well, but just a great conversation, a great guy. I really enjoyed the podcast. I think you guys will enjoy it too. I want to thank my sponsor for today's show, Zamberlan Boots. Zamberlan builds the highest quality boots for every different preference for Western hunters. So they have boots on there, and you'll hear today on the podcast. I really like their lightweight boots, the low cut ones, the 320 Trail Light Evo GTXs. They also have some new ones they're coming out with. We talk about them today on the podcast, so you'll hear about that. I also am in love with the Sloth GTX RR. The best hunting shoe. It's built burly, it's got a Vibram sole, it's waterproof, and this shoe has lasted me. I hunted with it all last season, and it's ready to go again this season. Just great durability and a great feel for the stock. So I really love these shoes. They also have some new shoes they're coming out with, but check out everything that Zamberlan does. They just don't cut any corners as far as quality and craftsmanship. They are by far the best booter shoe I've ever owned. So make sure to check them out, zamberlan.com. I also want to thank Swagger Bipods. Swagger Bipods builds a great bipod that you can mount to your rifle. They also have shooting sticks, and they're spring loaded, so you can really get tension back into your shoulder, shoot uphill or downhill, prone, sitting positions, kneeling positions. They just have a bipod for every different use, and the way it's designed, you can swivel and really track your animal with it if your animal's moving left or moving right. Just a great rest, and accuracy with a rifle is all about a solid rest, and Swagger builds a great one, so make sure to check them out at Swagger. Over at Eastman's, just finishing up this expo, got a bunch of great recordings, including today's, that I'm excited to release to you guys, and then just working hard on these good quality guests and good podcasts as we're now getting into the spring season. Be able to get outside and chase some sheds and chase some bears, hopefully, turkeys, if you're into that kind of thing. And no, turkeys are fun. I should really make time for them, as it does happen early April, and they're vocal, fun to chase around. It's been years since I've done it, but I need to go chase them again. But a bunch of fun things coming up for spring. Continue on our training into summer, hopefully draw some good tags, and plan for some of these super adventures for the fall. So I know I'm super excited. I know you guys are as well. I also want to thank Eastman's. I want to thank everything they do there, their support of the podcast, and then also make sure to check out our Elite Tag Hub membership. That'll get you a membership to both magazines, gets you access to our entire video library, including the videos on the Outdoor channel. We're giving away 6 hunts this year, and also you get our internet research tool to learn all these Western states and the opportunities that are available out there. So you can check that out at Tag Hub. Put a /Brian in for a landing page, and you can save 10% on the Elite membership. We also have a promo code for just the magazines, $50, an Outdoor Edge knife, both magazines. Just put in Elevated321, and make sure to check out everything we're doing over at Beyond the Grid, the internet TV show, and also Eastman's Hunting TV on the Outdoor channel. So with that, let's get into this podcast. It's a great one. So I've got Ike Eastman that sits in on this. We've got Phil back from Zamberlan Boots, just an absolute wealth of knowledge. I'm Brian Barney, your host, Eastman's Elevated. Here we go.
Okay, I'm live here at the expo. I've got my friend Phil from Zamberlan. I've also got Ike Eastman on the podcast, and we laid down a great podcast last expo. I really enjoyed it, Phil, and I really enjoy talking with you. So thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me, and reflecting back on that last podcast. It was a lot of fun. Obviously something I was a little nervous about, but it turned out so well, and it's been such a great piece for us to refer other customers to, and dealers and everybody in our world, just to get a really good understanding of what we're about as a company and a brand and what we stand for.
Mm-hmm.
So
I thought you did such a good job explaining the craftsmanship and the quality of your boots and of the company, and I think that's what I remember most from that podcast. But you guys are absolutely killing it. Some of these new shoes and new boots you guys are coming out with are just taking over the market.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride, and certainly with what's happening, these days with the spike in interest in hunting and just outdoor activity in general, we've really benefited from that. And when you are as well positioned as we were prior to the pandemic to take advantage of that, it's really resulted in a pretty strong, I would say, windfall for the brand. So we're definitely hitting our stride and enjoying every minute of it. It's been an extreme challenge on a lot of fronts, but I mean, this is what we live for, and it's really been a great scenario for us.
Yeah, and you guys have got some great ambassadors that you've partnered with shoes and boots, and it's just letting the world know, or the outdoor world know, what you guys are producing and why you're the top of the heap. And those new shoes, absolutely love them. And you have a bunch of examples here on the table, some of the new products. But I've just fallen in love with that lightweight hunting shoe and the low height hunting boot. And I see you brought a bunch of them for me to look at.
That's right. Yeah, we'll get into those for sure, and kind of break them down with you and let you know what kind of the direction we're going in. There's a couple different directions that we're taking our product down, and we'll break it all down and dissect it.
The cool thing, if I can interject, do we know what podcast number that was that we were on last time with Phil?
I'll put it on the intro. I'll look back and see it.
Because what we talk about there and the craftsmanship, but the thing that I remember the best is the partnerships that you guys have. With Vibram is a good example. You guys are building Vibram soles on all of these shoes that no one else can get.
That's right.
They're unique for you because of the history that you have, between Zamberlan and Vibram from the beginning. I don't know what year that was. Like, it had to have been in the early 20s.
It was about 82 years ago when that started.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So we were about 10 years old as a company when that happened, and yeah.
That's crazy. And you guys are building stuff specific for each shoe. It's not like, oh, we're just going to put this sole on everything. Everything has a purpose, and everything has a design and a reason.
That's right.
I got the guy that shoes my horses at Zamberlan's because he uses them constantly, and he told me, he goes, they're the only shoe I got, or boot. He goes, they're the only boot I got that won't fall apart because the acids in the manure and stuff just eat the leather apart. Not his Zamberlan's. He goes, I don't know how they do that, but it doesn't. He's had the other brands and they all fall apart in a couple of months. Yeah. And not his Zamberlan. He was raving about it just the other day.
I haven't had a shoe or a boot last longer than a pair of Zamberlan's.
No.
And the Vibram sole that you mentioned in these burly shoes that they're building, like, I love hunting in tennis shoes, but the problem is I have no grip and I can't side hill.
Yep.
Zamberlan's finally built me a heavy duty shoe where I've got this grip on the trail, on slick surfaces, on side hilling.
Yep.
Like, they handle like a boot, but they're as light as a shoe, and then I can stalk in them, while I'm bow hunting. So just great product.
People don't realize, hunters, we're on the trail for a while, but most of the time that we're hiking with heavy packs, we're not on a trail, we're side hilling. We're, I call it, we're boondocking, and if you don't have something that's supportive, that is just hell on your feet, absolute hell. 2 days of that and your wheels will be run off.
Well, you
So-
guys have just covered my entire spring collection. So
I'm sorry.
we'll get a little deeper into that as well. But yeah, there's, when you if you were to summarize all of that, it's basically, we do see a lot of hunters out there and trail runners, right? We see a lot of outdoor enthusiasts on the mountain and trail runners, and they have the same problems you had. And so we're coming at it from the perspective of a boot maker. We're giving you that trail runner construction, but from the mindset, right, and from the technology of a hiking boot company, which is why you're not seeing a compromise on support and performance and durability, but yet you're still getting that lightweight feel and that comfort that is really in demand, right? So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everything's been well thought out on the design of them. And you're right, you're coming from the perspective of a boot maker, and so you're able to build them for us hunters, which is just an absolute game changer, So I've fallen in love with them, and I use them for everything, and I can't believe how well they hold up. Like even some of the old pairs that I have from 2 years ago, they get retired from my hunting collection, but then they go to construction job sites, and I beat them up on construction job sites. And I just can't wear those things out. Like, they're built with durability. And I think it's just due to the craftsmanship and quality of materials that you guys put into every pair that you guys build.
I will tell you, though.
No compromise. Yeah.
I will tell you that some of your boots are extremely hard to break in. I learned a trick this year, though. I did. So we have a boot review coming up in the next DHJ, the sheep issue of the Hunting Journal, and we're gonna not match the different companies, but we're going to talk about each company and what's unique with them. And so I have a brand new pair of Zamberlans, and I'm breaking them in for this review. And I have a military buddy who I was kind of complaining. I'm like, man, these things are just eating my feet, my heels apart. He goes, well, don't do this lace.
Yeah.
Well, that was simple. So the lace that holds your foot back, your heel back. He said, until they're broke in, don't do it. Just leave it out, tie them up, and as that foam forms around your feet, at some point, you'll be able to put that on. It's been a game changer, absolute game changer for breaking boots in. And, you're talking about craftsmanship and how long they are. Well, one of the downsides of that is that they can be a little struggle to break in. But
it really depends on the model, and I think
it depends on how weird your feet are. My heels are really weird.
Most of the models should be pretty good to go out of the box. You've got some of the more extreme, high mountain boots that can be very, very tough.
That Bellator Light was really tough. But
oh, really?
I refuse to give them up because once I got them broke in, they are my favorite.
It could be a sizing issue for you too. A lot of times, if you're getting a heel rub, it's because you're maybe a half size too long.
I do have 1 foot half size bigger than the other.
Yeah, that can really contribute to it. The Baltoro Light, this is what I run in. Yeah. This is my boot right here. This is my favorite. It's been my all-time favorite from Zamberlan. Used to be the 996 Vayaz, but this 1110 Baltoro Light is the new one, and it's what I use archery hunting. And so it's the reason I like it is because you've got a low profile, so you're close to the ground.
Yep.
Lightweight construction design throughout. You've got really durable Prevanger leather uppers. And, for me, the fit is spot on. So I took my first pair of these out of the box, Idaho mule deer hunting last year, and they were brilliant. I know my size. I'm spot on. Yeah. I can do that. I know the entire collection front and back. I've probably had 70 pair of Zamberlans over the years. So.
You wore them. You're saying you wore them here and there.
I wore them here
and there.
Idaho
mule deer. I didn't. Okay, so you now got to tell me the story. Idaho mule deer. Were you successful?
No, very close, but no.
Archery?
Close, but no cigars. Archery. Yep.
Philip has fallen in love with archery, onset adult archery. Like he
not
shot
know
a bow
that.
when he was younger, and now recently this last year, he's really committed himself to the bow and arrow and going on these big adventures.
I blame you for that.
Yeah, he's been listening to podcasts.
It's definitely contributed.
Yeah, he's been taking in all the information, trying to build all his skill sets. He is all in on archery, and he's got more hunts planned this season.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're planning 2 or 3 this year, and really, I grew up. I was telling you earlier, Brian, that I grew up, in northern Wisconsin. I grew up a hunter in a place called Park Falls, Wisconsin, and doing a lot of rough grouse hunting, whitetail. I I shot my first whitetail when I was 12.
Yeah.
Right. And so, that was just part of life. That's what you did. I mean, schools would close for 10 days around
Openings,
Thanksgiving. Yeah. For hunting season. And that was just the way it was. And then life happens. You go to school, you move away, you move to the big city, you live in a lot of different places and you get away from it. And then just being in this industry again, I've had so many guys just pulling me back, just pull me back. And, it was really, I think one of the things that did it was, for me, getting me back into it was having an experience with my father before he passed away.
Oh.
Yeah. He passed in 2014 from cancer, and before he did, I moved back to Wisconsin temporarily to take care of him, and in that time we actually got to go out together and go hunt again.
Awesome.
So yeah, it was one of those things that was just really special.
So now a hunt is a tribute. Every hunt's a tribute.
Yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
it's become more than that, even. And so it's, now I've got a close buddy at home as well, whom I hunt with, and on all of our trips, and we keep each other going, keep each other motivated, and we shoot together, we practice together, we do all of our plans together, and as well working with the ambassadors, the group of ambassadors that we work with. They're always pulling me out and trying to get me on to do all sorts of things. So yeah, it's just one of those things where it was inevitable to get back into it, and this time a little bit differently, picking up the bow. And thanks to the guys at Hoyt for that. I've really, not to show any preference to any bow brand or over the other, but I've been shooting a Hoyt and it's been marvelous.
We need to teach him what Matthews bows are.
Yeah. My brother-in-law swears by the Matthews. He's in
from
Wisconsin.
You got to shoot a Matthews, Phil.
This is it, right? And so it's the Matthews guys out there, if you're listening. And I'm sure I'll try them here before long.
But the cool thing is you got back into it, and deep dive. You have a buddy that's that's key, isn't it? Somebody that's motivating you, pushing you, keeping you rolling in the right direction. When you're like, we were talking about this the other day. I don't want to go running. Yes, you do. Let's get up. Let's go do it.
That's right.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and so it's changed a lot of aspects of what I do on a day-by-day basis. My weekends now. I've been an athlete, been a runner for my whole life, but I still run. But instead on a couple times a week, instead of running, I'll put on my Kifaru pack and fill it with rocks or weights or whatever, and I go out and ruck, and and I'll put my whole kit together and throw a few plates of weight for my Bowflex in the back.
Yep.
And just go out for a couple hours and just work it, and just always thinking about the upcoming season. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
it's nice to find a passion like that, isn't it? And your work has been your passion for so many years, but to find something that isn't your work and something that you just enjoy, and it's such a pure endeavor to be out in the woods and out in nature. And so, like through bow hunting, we get these close encounters, and these close encounters, they're these fleeting moments in nature that you're able to capitalize on and able to experience. And it sounds like you had some of those this season, like hunting elk. You have this goal to try to harvest a bull elk, and you just keep thinking you've done all this practice with the bow, and if I can just get into range of a bull, I'll be able to harvest one. But that's only half the battle, right?
Yeah.
There's another 100 right decisions you have to make once you get into range of a bull. So you had a bunch of close encounters this season.
Yeah, we did. Actually, on our first one a couple years ago in Colorado, we had a couple, 3 or 4 close encounters. And you think you're doing everything right, and at the end, thermals change on a dime, and they smell you out, and they're gone, and you don't even realize it. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It's just, that sort of a chess match.
Yep.
When you're out there it's frustrating at first, but then as you dedicate yourself more to it, it becomes even more thrilling and more enthralling, and it pulls you in further, right? And it's something that challenge becomes, something that you're just thinking about all the time, right? It's that you're thinking, okay, think about that mistake, and okay, how can I, what research do I need to do? What do I need to figure out? What can I do to get better?
Yeah. What gear do I need to change this year? You know. Do I need a different pair of boots? Did I wear, I went on a sheep hunt with too light a boot one time. That was horrible. Come home, change that. And just, I always say, bow guys are gear nuts and they're tinkers, and the reason is because they have so much going into that hunt, and so much can absolutely change when you get in that 30 yards, under 60. Things happen, and you got to have everything dialed, and that's why they tinker. That's why I tinker.
Yeah.
It's probably given you a great connection to the boots as well.
Yes.
Like to not that like you spend time outdoors and you're in the mountains, but to go out and to use them on a hunt, it gives you a good connection to those boots and what us hunters are looking for.
There's no accident that since I started using, for example, the Baltoro Light on my hunts, that
I love
sales
this
of it
boot,
have
too.
gone through the roof.
Have they?
Every dealer's stocking it now. Right? It's like
That's funny.
Yeah.
I'm like, but you don't understand. You got to have this one. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it does help a lot.
Yeah.
And you're right about the gear, and it helps that I'm in the industry getting started. Right. I've got a small son at home, and I've got a family, and we've got a home and everything else, and we've got all these obligations, and getting started in bow hunting is, it's no small commitment.
No.
Right?
No.
It really helped to be in the industry and get access to, to all the different, brands and so forth that I have access to, that I'm thankfully have access to, but especially with the boots. But I mean, if you're getting into bow hunting, it's an investment. You have to commit. And
I had one of our guys, Brandon, one time. I said, hey, because he has a spreadsheet on all of his gear, everything down to his cut off toothbrush and how much it weighs. I had him here a couple years ago. I go, hey, put a retail price on all that. And he told me, I'm not even going to say, because it'll scare everybody's wife. It is a stupid amount of money that you're wandering around in the woods with. Like, I wouldn't have that much money in my pickup if, it's just crazy. But down to, you got to have the right gear, because you're putting your life and you're putting your enjoyment, and one gear failure can completely destroy what you've been planning and working for all year.
Yeah, and I think there's also a comfort factor with it too,
Yeah.
right? And it's like getting back to the boots. It's not only do you not want them to fail, you've got to feel good. You don't want to be thinking about it. You don't want to be worrying about it. There's so many things that can go wrong on the mountain, and there's so many there's so many elements out there that can affect you. Things that can change. In an instant, that you don't want your feet to be one of them.
Yep.
You really don't.
Without your feet, you're done. You're out.
Yeah.
I mean, I can hunt without binoculars. Is it fun? No, but you can do it. You cannot hunt if you can't walk. Pointless.
30,000 steps with a blister on your heel.
Oh.
Good luck.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm lucky as I have tough feet, and these the boots and shoes seem to fit me perfectly for my feet. But there's nothing worse than having a blister and having to step on it every time.
Yep.
That'll kill a hunt faster than anything.
It's just not motivated.
Yeah.
And fit is very key.
Is it?
And there's some feet that our brand won't fit. I mean, that's why different brands exist even in the marketplace. I mean, you got to have a variety of brands with a variety of different fits. Our fit is, for example, is very different than Lova's, right? And so it's just as an example, and that's a good thing, right? Because you want to be able to have a complete market and to fit everybody up. I would say that, universally speaking, we do a pretty good job fitting a wide variety of feet because we're a little bit more forgiving than other European and Italian brands. As well, we've engineered our product to this point to have that right blend of, durability, lightweight, comfort and break-in period and so forth. I mean, you could engineer a boot that would never fail, but it would be so heavy and uncomfortable, and so that's how they used to be, even 20 years ago, that you wouldn't enjoy it. So today's consumer is very demanding, and they want everything to be ultra lightweight and ultra comfortable and soft and yet last forever.
Yeah.
So it's that's what we're working towards.
Let me ask you, what is the key? And you're probably going to ask this, Brian, but what is the key in fit? You say it's very key. The key is fit. So what are the 5 things that you need to know how to fit your foot, since it's unique?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if there's 5 things, but I think there's a lot of things that you can do to make sure that you're getting a good fit with your boot before you go out. That's for sure. I think the first thing that's the most important to me is you don't want any heel lift, right? You mentioned you have the half size difference in each foot. And that's really tough. That's really tough for a manufacturer when a customer comes to us and they're like, hey, I've got 2 feet that are half size different. We'd love to be able to
Well, here's a
help
funny,
with that, but it's
what's funny about that? my left foot's bigger than my right foot. My brother's right foot's bigger than his left, and we're the same size.
Oh, that's
so we
fantastic.
literally could get a 12 and a half and a 12 and then swap the halves and be good. I can't convince him that that's a good idea yet.
Well, and to be honest, everybody's feet are different sizes. It's just to what degree.
Yeah.
Right. And the only thing that's for certain is that nobody's feet are the same size in each foot.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there is variation there. But heel lift is one of those things that'll kill you. Right. I mean, if you get too big of a size, especially in a performance boot with a stiff midsole, you're going to put yourself in for either a really long break-in period or a really bad experience when you get out. So that's really key. And with our brand, it tends to be either true to size or a half size down that people have to go. So I'm a 12 in everything, whether running shoes, dress shoes, whatever.
Right.
I'm an 11 and a half in everything with Zombie, everything. And it's just that way. That's how the translations went with their fits, their lasts.
Right.
There are universal sizes out there. You've got the Brannock devices and whatnot that measure that. But at the end of the day, there's different companies that are manufacturing these, and they don't share their lasts. These aren't universal. That's why our fit is different than everybody else's, because we've developed our own last that it's built around, and we've got...
What do you mean by that? What is a last?
A last is the form. So when you go into the factory, you'll see a bin of these foot forms. They look like your dress shoe, your cedar dress shoe, inserts that you put in that stretch it out. Yeah, they look kind of like that, but they're made of different materials, and that's what the boot is built around. When they're handcrafted, they wrap the boot around that, and so that last is proprietary to the brand, and that's really key to, it's like a trade secret.
Right. Yeah.
And so the way it sizes, the way that translates to an EU size, to a US size, or to whatever size, is also proprietary. That's why you get so much variation. Well, I'm a 10 in this brand, but a 10 and a half in that brand. That's why it happens.
Because the last is different.
Yeah, and companies try to keep it as close as they can to those, like what I would call those Brannock sizes, right? To those universal sizes. But at the end of the day, you're really making it for how you feel the foot should be. And we use a couple dozen different lasts in our boots. Even with the boots that are on the table here, there's 4 different lasts that are being used.
Really?
Wow.
There's only 7-8 boots on the table.
So that's why one your Bolteras fit me really good once I got them broke in.
Sure.
Where I can take these right out of the box and roll.
Yeah, that also has to
last-
do with the construction, right? And the midsole on that, and how much softer that one is.
Yeah.
This is a 1.5 millimeter, polypropylene midsole, whereas this is a 3 millimeter on this one. So, and this one is a 4 millimeter.
And what do you
This
call
one's a
it?
5.
What's the name of this one?
That's the Salate.
Salate.
That's the two. This is what Brian's been
I
wearing.
used it all season. I
Oh, okay.
love them.
Okay. I didn't realize that these existed. I didn't know they had them with Rand all the way around it. That's cool.
Yeah, so, and we can get into that stuff. We can get into the spring stuff. I'll talk a little bit maybe about, what's going on with the brand and so on, a little higher
I'm
level.
jumping around. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
That's why
fine.
Brian doesn't invite me.
Yeah. That's fine. I mean, just to give you a little update, I mean, Zonderland's obviously, as we talked about earlier, has been on a tear. The pandemic was one of those things that, when it first started happening, the entire industry was, as everybody was like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Right?
How's this affecting me?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden our dealers started shutting down. And there was that second quarter of 2020 where we were like, right? We, my wife and I had just bought a house. We had a 1-year-old at home, and we saw what was going on. Our revenues went from where they were to nothing. And we were like, wow, what's going to happen here? Are we going to have to sell our home? Are we going to have to make some adjustments here? What's going to happen? Because it was at the beginning, it was supposed to be 2 weeks and stop the spread, and then we're out. Obviously, that didn't materialize. And so, as time went on, we started to see evidence that, hey, guys are actually, one of the things that they can do during lockdown was go outside.
Yeah.
And so we started to see our website sales tick up. And we were like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And as that quarter rolled on, that second quarter of 2020 rolled on, we were like, there might be something going on here, something, potentially good coming out of this. And, our customers that had closed their doors still have their websites operating. And so we were in contact with the buyers and talking to them and talking to them. And at that time, governments around the world, even in the U.S., were even shutting down trail systems I don't know if you remember that.
Oh yeah, in Washington, you couldn't go out. You couldn't go on public land.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, wait a minute.
Even though we knew at that point that, being contagious outside was unlikely and so on and so forth,
right.
it was, it was kind of a panic mode. So we were like, let's just stay calm, right? Let's keep everybody on board. Let's just kind of stay the course here and see, what starts to happen. And then as news started to trickle in over those 3 months, then we had our customers start opening their doors again and start talking to us. And we're like, we might need a little bit more product, because we went from, we've got all this, our spring product in, to everything was canceled.
Yeah.
We're sitting on all the inventory in the warehouse. It's full because we were about to do all of our big spring shipments.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those shipments, whether it was the anniversary sale shipments to these dealers or those dealers, the spring startups, the pre-hunt sales and whatnot, they all were canceled. So we were sitting on tons of inventory. And then we were like, well, looks like this might be a good thing. And slowly things started to pick up to when we got to fall. We had that 6-month period, that last half of 2020 was the best in our company history.
Wow.
And we had recovered to such a point where we ended up having a pretty substantial growth that year because of it.
The thing I like about what you guys did, because number one, you didn't panic, and you saw, the things ticking up, and we watched you double down on your marketing, like, oh, this is going to work.
Yeah.
These people are actually going to go outside. And you doubled down your marketing, what you were doing with us, what you were doing with other people, and it worked epically. And you're now, the end of 2021, you're reaping those rewards, which is freaking phenomenal.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the marketing. I mean, we even though our factory in Italy had to close down for a month and a half, because if you remember early on, Italy was they were just
that was bad.
Hard hit. That's where the numbers were coming out. We were hearing about 10% mortality rates and this and that, and those were the scary numbers early on that were causing the panic.
Yeah.
And so, funny story is on the 2nd of March, I was at one of our customers up in Seattle with an Italian. And Seattle was the start of the hot spot, right, for us. And the next day after we left, they closed their corporate offices because of COVID, right? Because they had a bunch of cases and that COVID scare. So that was just a side story. It was a little bit funny. Yeah.
I was
so
there
anyway,
when that happened.
Yeah. So we had a banner rest of the year, and you're right. I remember that, and thanks for bringing that up. Is we saw that early on, and we went back to the folks in Italy. I was like, listen, I think this is going to be really good for us. I want to make sure we're prepared going into fall and going into next year. I want to keep all of our production orders and even augment those. We're going to keep moving ahead on the marketing, and we even layered on top of it.
Yeah.
And we're like, one way or another, either through dealers or through our website or however, we're going to reach these consumers that are wanting to get out there, and we're going to be there for them, and we're going to be ready for them. And and that's exactly what manifested, and it was great. And 2021 was, as we got into spring, it became actually mid and late fall, it became very clear that not only were we going to be able to get through all of that backlog of inventory and what was coming in, but we were going to need a lot more.
Wow.
And so we had a great growth year in 2020. 2021 was basically about, can we make more? Can we make more? How much can we make?
Yeah.
And how much can we build?
That's awesome. It's not how much can we sell. It's how much can we build. Is it possible to fulfill this?
Yeah, and that's when all those supply chain challenges started coming in. You had issues with shipping lanes. You had issues with the ports. You had issues with labor availability at the factory, with people being out for a few weeks because of COVID and different shutdowns and so forth. And so just managing through all of that, and the folks in Italy, the management team, the Zamberlan family, I mean, you talk about rallying a company. I've never seen or heard of anything like this in my life, the way that they performed and the way that they delivered. They knew that, and this really speaks into part of what we spoke about in the last podcast, is when you control your supply chain, when you control your factory, when you are the factory, in times like this come up, that's really when you can flex your muscles a little bit, so to speak, and really reap the benefits. That's right. Not only, prior to the pandemic, we had those advantages with being able to react quickly, change orders, meet new demands, maybe push out a change in a style, in real time, and react to the marketplace well, and we start getting customer complaints about a specific issue with a boot. Changes are made on the fly.
That is
and
so cool.
We fix those, right? And that's one of the things we're able to do. Well, during the pandemic, that was magnified exponentially. And so we were one of the few brands that was able to respond and to bring product in. And, we grew, for most of the year, we were up between 70 and 80% for the year. And then
Lord.
That number came down a little bit towards the end of the year because our second half 2020 numbers were so high.
Yeah.
We're in terms of that growth.
It started in 2020.
It started in 2020.
It ended in 2021.
Yeah. It's still going.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, we're still in a situation where, are we able to get enough product in? Because you've got, and this leads into the next point of, around inflation and what's happening in the supply chains. But for example, I received, 3 40-foot high containers in October, and we're putting about 4,000 pair on a container as they come in. But 3 came in within about 10 days. Well, one had left 4.5 months before, one had left 3 months before, and one had left 45 days before.
And you got all of your shipments at once.
They just came in all at once.
So you go, we need a bigger warehouse. Wow.
And they were all gone within 60 days.
Wow.
Right? So it's like, what's great about this is that you're getting so many people that are coming to the outdoors. They're hiking, they're backpacking, they're hunting. The hunting registration numbers are...
Yeah, it's crazy.
They're insane.
Back to that, there's a lot of people that, March of 2020, they opened up their freezer and it was empty. And there was nothing on the shelves.
Right.
And they turned and went, what do we do now? And that's, you're seeing a huge growth. They sold 75,000 more licenses in Montana in 2021.
That's unbelievable.
That's a lot of people.
That
are just new to it or are decided, I usually hunt my state, now I'm going to hunt somewhere else. Sorry, Brian. Montana's hunting just went to hell. No, I'm just kidding. But
it's great.
It is because you know what? I used to say this about fly fishing. My dad used to complain about fly fishing, that the worst thing that ever happened to fly fishing was a river runs through it. I go, yeah, but Dad, look at the gear that we have now. Because if it wasn't so popular, we wouldn't have a Sims that's building good fly fishing gear. If it wasn't for these new hunters, this building we're sitting in at Expo wouldn't have half these booths.
That's right.
It gives us a voice to to protect what we all love to do, and there's still so much opportunity out there.
Yeah.
There's opportunity to go have your own experience out there and go enjoy it. And that's why so many people are getting into it, and it's great to see you guys succeed, and in part because of your awesome product and the quality of it, but also in part like listening to you talk is the pride that each and every one of you guys at Zamberlan take in that company, and making sure that you have enough boots on hand to be able to provide it, making sure that you can keep the quality up in the boots. So it's just really great to see and be part of. So how are things going now? What's the future look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. And what they've done recently, for example, in Italy with, in our meetings, it's speaking to that point. It's kind of funny. We do these Zoom calls, with the board and with the rest of the team there, and you look around the table at everybody. They've all got like red eyes and they're tired, and you ask them how they're doing. They're like, we're exhausted. They put in a new production line over the last 13 months, a process that typically takes about 18 months to do. They did it in about 12, 13 months, which is great. A lot of that is training the craftsmen and getting them, up to speed and getting the labor there. So that new production line is now up and running, which is phenomenal to have that for them. Because this isn't just a U.S. story. This is a global story for the brand, right?
Yeah.
So going forward, it's I think going to be a lot more of the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Marco Zamberlan was asked in an interview about 7-8 years ago when he planned on leaving Italy and going to the Far East to produce his product, and he looked at him and was like, never, right? And it's never going to happen, and he means it, right? And so doubling down on production, on innovation capabilities, on R&D, and so forth, and really looking at the marketplace and understanding what's happening there and responding to it. We talk about Spring 22 product here, and we talked about that trail running inspiration for those shoes and boots. And that's in large part responding to the influx of new hunters, right, into the market, and and what they're asking for and what they're wanting and so forth, and the trend towards lightweight and the trend towards high performance and durability in that category. So that's we've responded to it with a lot of new product launches, and there's some cool stuff coming through, and there's some great stuff coming through for the big mountain boots as well, and we'll talk about that. And in fact, let's jump into it. So I think the one thing I would touch on is this boot that, let's call it a shoe.
Yep.
It's
It's
a shoe boot.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's my favorite shoe or boot that I've ever owned. I used it absolutely everywhere. So the
that's right.
Saluth. I just
Salath.
Salathe.
Salathe?
Sorry for the pronunciation.
It's spelled S-A-L-A-T-H-E.
Okay.
Or you can just type into the search bar of our website 215-215.
There you go.
That's the model number.
They're amazing.
215 Salatin.
And even though we all hunt country, like we all have different preferences for what we like. Like the same way as the fit's different for everybody. Everybody's an individual and has their preferences and what they like to hunt it. And so even a guy that hunts the same country as me may prefer a mountain boot where I prefer the shoe. And so I just think it's great that you guys offer all these different options for all the different hunters out there, that everybody can find the boot or shoe that they prefer to use.
Yep.
And it was actually Brian that was the inspiration for a lot of this, because we started looking at this line, it's called an X-Active line. And we started thinking of, what we'd like to do with it and how we'd like to evolve it. And I was like, that's an early season archery shoe, and that's for Brian.
Yeah.
Brian Barney. I was like, these are the colors I want it in. This is who I want to put it on. And you actually got the first pairs that came into the country because you're a sample size.
Oh, that's amazing.
So yeah,
You're a sample size.
you're the same size as Marco Zomberlin. And Marco's sample size. But yeah, and that was really the thought that we had with this. And we were designing it with the intent of, let's create a shoe that's really versatile, right? That's trail running inspired, but has the support, the performance, and the protection of a boot, of a hiking boot.
Yes.
And and what we wanted to do with that, and if you look at it, it looks like it's got kind of like a climbing DNA to it.
It does.
in a way.
Yes, absolutely.
And you see that, and that's the precision of it. That's the precision part. Yet it's soft. It's got a good flex to it. It's got a little bit of stiffness in that midsole, but
it does
very,
have a little
very
bit
slight.
of stiffness. Yes.
Yep. And it's just the right amount. And then you feel it, and you're like, wow.
I know. I picked that up and went, geez, that's light.
It's super light, and that's what I'm wearing. That's what I'll be wearing at the show all week. And I love running around in this. You also have the half dome, the 214 half dome.
Yes,
which is
I'm
actually
wearing
what
right
you're
now.
wearing right now.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what I'll use a lot of times when I'm out rucking in San Diego.
Yep.
It's because there's no Gore-Tex in it, and so it's a little bit cooler on the foot. So that's what I like. And then this one, if I'm going to be in wet conditions. But that's really the inspiration there. Also, so we've got.
So another thing, Phil, too, is your guys' waterproofing process is the best I've ever run up against. Like they continue to be waterproof through
Thank
the
you.
life of the shoe or the boot, which is unmatched in the industry. I've never had one that holds its waterproofing abilities like your guys' do.
Yeah, and there's a lot of reasons for that, right? And we had talked on some of that in the last podcast, but the testing of every membrane that's sewn in the factory,
Yes.
right? That Gore-Tex membrane, so it's submerged in water to make sure that when it's actually going into the shoe
that's
to begin
right.
with.
That
It's
blew my
every-
mind on the last
every boot.
podcast. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
everyone.
not. It's not just we tested this roll. It's every boot.
Yeah, because what you're doing is you're getting that roll of membrane material from Gore-Tex, right? And there's different levels of membrane, right? They've got
Right.
a lot of different products. But you cut it into the shape of the booty for that size and for that model and for that last, and then you seam tape it. Well, when you're doing all that, cutting and reassembling, you have to make sure that you've reassembled it properly.
Right.
So that's why they do that test. And so, going in, if it doesn't go through that test, I mean, what's the point if it's not working when you manufacture it?
It's never
right?
going to work.
It's never going to work outside. So that's part of it. The leathers are a big part of it as well. So the leather selection for us and where we supply our leathers, there's zero shortcuts. A lot of boot companies talk about, we got the best. We know we've got the best leathers. We feel really confident in that, and and we source them from a number of different companies, but I mean the connections that we have and what we're doing with the wax leathers and what we're doing with chromium-free leathers and what we're doing with a lot of different leather innovations. In fact, you're going to be hearing about that from us later this year. We've went and got, many, many, many certifications for our leathers, not only for their performance, but for their environmental impacts and so forth, and whatnot. So you'll be hearing about that. It's kind of, we put it under one label. It's going to be called TerraCare. that's coming out later this year. That'll be
That's
part
cool.
of some of our marketing. But yeah, it contributes to all of that. And then last but not least, the construction and the design, how it bends. If you've got the bend in the wrong place or the toe box is off by a millimeter or something like that, that can wear on the membrane, and after a year it can wear through it, and then it fails.
That's spot on. Yep.
Yeah, so it's all that engineering, and that's 9.5 decades of knowing how that needs to be built.
95 years.
Yeah, well, 93. This year's 93.
Good
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So, if I remember right, on the last podcast we were talking about the leathers, and you said don't treat them with anything. Is that correct?
Out of the box.
Okay.
Don't treat them with anything out of the box because they're already pre-treated.
Okay.
Now, after 4 months or 6 months, you can start treating them. But if you've got a Gore-Tex model, you don't want to use anything that's silicone-based. You don't
Because
want to
it
use
plugs
or like mink oils and things like that because it'll clog the Gore-Tex, and then the Gore-Tex will fail at that point. So that's something to be really careful of. We got a lot of that information on our website and in our help center.
And you sell something to treat the Gore-Tex.
The Hydroblock, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is what's infused into the leathers from the beginning.
Okay.
Right? While they're tanned and so forth. So that's the same compound. But you can use Grangers, you can use Nick Wax, as long as it's approved for use with Gore-Tex. There's a lot of other good products out there. But there's also some products that, we would discourage people from using, apart from like the mink oils and things, is, something that can interact with the cements and delaminate your outsole or your rand and so forth. So
Horse
that
manure.
information's on our that information's on our website, and there's a lot of data there, and we're expanding that all the time and so on. So yeah, that's the Salate and the Half Dome, and those are some of my favorites.
They're
'Cause
amazing.
to me. Between the Salate and the Baltoro Light, I've got all of my bow hunting covered.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And and I feel really great about that. Even though there's so many boots that I love that I hike in, like the Trail Light Evos. That's like kind of been a go-to
I
mine
love
for
the
just
Trail
for
Light
hiking.
Evos. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great boot.
They're-
And I
they're
see.
we've had that design since the 60s. I
Wow.
mean, so there's
Wow.
yeah.
Yep. And then I see more of these mid heights coming out. Like I think I saw
That's the
some
one.
new ones on the website. So these
Yeah.
are going to be a lightweight construction, but more of a low height boot, correct?
Yeah, and so you look at this, and it's got a very aggressive stance to it. This is the
Yes.
219 Anabasis. This comes
Those are
out,
new.
These are brand new.
Oh.
So these come out in about 45, 60 days,
Okay.
maybe 90, depending on the port.
Amazing. Okay.
Yeah, I got to really urge on my Oakland port workers there, so we get them in sooner. But yeah, they're actually on the water. They're approaching the port now, and we'll have them very soon. So this Anabasis, it's very, very aggressive looking.
Yes.
Right. It looks like a running shoe. There's a short version of this as well that it looks like a trail runner.
Yeah.
It does. And it's got the light feel of it and the comfort of it. But there's a
Gore-Tex.
lot of difference
Yeah.
with a trail runner. You start with this outsole, like the Salate. It's got the Mega Grip from Vibram on it, right? So this is the Vibram outsole that we use. It's got the max cushioning on the heel, kind of like we call it like a bubble butt here,
Yep.
so to speak, on the heel.
Yep.
It's got a very aggressive stance to it. And then the upper, this is a new technology. This is part of the innovation that's going on, that continues to go on. I mean, when we think, you think about Zamberlan, a lot of times people think traditional. They think old school Italian bootmaker, 90-some years old. But what I think people really should be thinking is continuous innovation all the time. That's setting the standard in the industry. And this Anabasis is kind of that next step. And, this is a $260, mid-cut hiker. That's the upper is completely microfiber on it. It's machine cut. Right, it's a high frequency machine, right? It's the first time that this type of technology is coming out of Italy.
Really?
Right. So this is normally what you see coming. This type of technology is what you see coming out of China. Well, we don't want to manufacture shoes in China, right? That's not where we want to be from. We want to control our supply chain. We want to control, the quality, and we want to control the fit and the experience, and everything we do has to be best in class, or we don't do it. So we imported this technology into Italy, into the factory, made a big investment in it, and now we're able to produce all sorts of new and interesting types of ultralight product that meets our quality standards. And so this Anabasis is that. So you've got a highly breathable microfiber upper. All of these materials are microfiber, just really interesting designs on it. We've got different colorways for it. We've got a low-cut version and a mid-cut version. It's got the Gore-Tex membrane, the Vibram Mega Grip, and the EVA midsole on it. And so this is something where you've got really great underfoot support. You've got hiking boot kind of DNA, but meant to compete with like a trail runner. And so if you like that trail runner feel and you're going out, try one of those.
The thing that amazes me is how light. I mean, even this.
The Salate in the
the Salate is just
with
amazing.
A full rubber rand on it.
Yeah,
it's got a full rubber rand around it. And normally that is death for a shoe for weight, but it really and that's because of the way we engineered this outsole on the Salate. It's actually a cupped outsole, so you don't see it, but on the inside it's all hollowed out, and there's even a lower density EVA on the inside, which gives more cushioning underfoot and reduces a lot of weight even further, but it doesn't compromise on the durability of it. So it's, again, that's an outsole innovation that we worked on with Vibram, and that gets incorporated into it that, you don't even realize, you don't even see it. It's just one of those many, many details.
Let me ask you a question, Phil. What's your thoughts on insoles, like replacing the insoles?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the user. Some people require a bit more arch support. I would say relative to, industry norms, our insoles are pretty good.
Yes.
I would say we tend to be better than most. But if you're in need of like extra arch support, or you've got other foot issues where you want to put like orthotics in, orthotics are tough, right? I mean, because you talk about a precision fit and like a technical mountain boot, that can really throw off the fit of a boot or a shoe. But getting something like a footbed in there, like a Superfeet or there's a lot of great insoles out there. It can really enhance it even further. But I think for the most part, I've never done that.
I've never had to use them on Zamberlins. That's why I asked, because people are asking, well, you put a Superfeet in there. No, I've never done anything.
Yeah, and it's when you're paying for a handcrafted premium quality out of Italy, you don't want a shoddy footbed in there.
It's like putting cheap tires on a really nice pickup.
Now this light collection that we're going through, this is a new footbed for us.
Okay.
So we don't have these in stock just yet in terms of reselling them. We've got a few that we do. We've got the memory foam ones, which come in all of our mountain boots. We've got the thermal footbeds, which come in all of our insulated boots. But these new soft foam footbeds we don't have in just yet, but it's a new one for us.
Okay.
So
those that at home, he was playing with the insole.
Yeah, I was taking the insole out and playing with it. It's orange and black, and
it's got holes in it.
So what you've got there that's a new one for women. So that uses this same platform. This is called the Circe, the 334 Circe.
Okay.
And if you know anything about, mythology, Circe's, she's a bad lady. And this is really, in this particular one, this is a new light hiker for women. It's got that same platform as the Anabasis. So it's, really aggressive, max outsole feel to it. Think of like a Hoka running shoe almost.
Yes.
In terms of that look and feel. Yeah. So you've got that max cushioning underfoot with that Mega Grip wide stance performance, and a really soft microfiber upper. And this is coming out of Italy at $250, I'm going to say. Sorry, I'm getting my numbers mixed up with all the inflation and the price increase and everything.
Oh, it's going to be crazy right now.
Yeah, we can talk about that in a minute. But I mean, I got some. It's either $250 or it's $240 maybe. I think it's $240 right now. It's just about to hit the market. The 334 Circe. It is fantastic. I mean, it comes in a couple different colors for us. What's nice about the Salate and the Anabasis and this Circe here as well that we're going to talk about is we've gone to this new tongue system.
I noticed the tongue's different,
Yeah, we kind of got away from that. We went to a kind of a sock-like environment in there.
It doesn't split down the side.
That's right. So like you've got the Cresta Alta.
Yep.
Right. So you posted that great photo recently of your mule deer, which was phenomenal. Congratulations.
That deer right there.
This was the one.
Yeah, that's him.
You got it mounted so fast.
Yeah. My neighbor's a taxidermist.
Oh my goodness. It was impressive. Yeah, a lot of mule deer envy there. But in that boot as well, we've got the same system where it's an elasticized. It almost looks like Lycra, right? Like a tongue. It stretches, but you put your foot in there. It's like it creates this sock-like environment. So that's coming out for women as well in a few weeks, in a matter of weeks. And then we have the update to the 103 Hike Light. Now, Brian, you used to have a shoe similar to this from us.
Yes, I love that shoe.
Yeah. And in fact, you talked about it in the last podcast. It was a gray one. We had that made in Romania and in Eastern Europe.
Yep.
And so we just had a lot of issues, ongoing issues with that factory, and we had always been encouraging Marco, like, Marco, just make it yourself. He's like, but the price is going to go up. You know, it was a $150 shoe, and we were like, yeah, but there's just too many problems, and really our customers, they don't want to compromise, right?
Yeah.
Anymore. So, you know, just give them the best and let's go with it. And so this is the Free Blast. It's the 217 Free Blast. And it uses that same outsole as the Anabasis, that Max outsole. It's got the upper, really similar to the 103 Hike Light with Gore-Tex in it. And, you know, this is what I'm looking forward to using myself just on an everyday basis.
Oh, wow.
And that's coming out in a few weeks. That's going to be available in 3 colors to start, the gray, the green,
cool.
and another one in the black coming in the fall.
Nice.
Oh, what? You've given me so many options. I'm not going to know which way to go. They just all look like
It's a good thing we didn't do
boots.
this before Christmas. My list would have been bigger.
No doubt. And then you take it from these and then start to work into these mountain boots. What are you guys doing new with mountain boots?
That's right. And again, with these lightweight, it's really responding to the consumer. And, you know, Brian, you've been a big inspiration for this because I see how hardcore you are on the mountain and what you're running in. And I heard stories about Ike and you know, as well, and wanting to be super lightweight. And so this was really
It's
a direction
just
we took
age.
very seriously.
The older I get, the lighter I want to be.
Yeah, I hear you. You know, but then, you know, you've got the traditional side as well. And since we last spoke, there's been a lot of new things, you know, hitting the market, like our Storm Pro, which is similar to our Baltoro Light, but it's got the full 360 Rand on it. It's a little taller. It's an ultra lightweight, early season but super robust stiff midsole boot that has been doing really well for us. The feedback's been over the top on that one. But also, you know, we've been getting more into the insulated models too. We didn't have a lot of insulated in the past. Our customers really, especially as we got started in this market in the U.S., you know, with the hunting customer here and, you know, their unique needs, you know, early on, a lot of those customers weren't asking for a lot of insulated product. But as time went on, we started to get more and more requests, especially as we got bigger and more prominent in the market. So we started responding. We relaunched the Hunter Pro Evo this last year, which is a very traditional, you know, mountain boot, but insulated, and it's just been really phenomenal for us. We launched the Polar Hunter last year as well.
Is that the one that has a built-in gator?
It's got the built-in gator with the waterproof zipper, the BOA system on the outside.
I wore those this winter.
Yeah.
They are awesome.
The Arctic Grip outsole.
Everybody listens goes, what the heck are those? the best winter boots I've ever wore, actually.
Looks like you're climbing Everest with the
exactly.
gator on there. But yeah, what a great design for the wintertime.
It was a great design for the winter, and with that integrated gator, I mean, it solves a lot of problems. And that demand actually came out of the market in Norway, and the Scandinavian markets were asking for that. And so we picked it up not knowing how it was going to take, and it's been taken on really well, but it's always been like, well, how do we position it, you know? Is it, guys will look at it and they'll be like, that's a nice fishing boot, or that's a snowmobiling boot, or whatever, you know? And, you know, we got Greg McHale up in the Yukon, who's, you know, a good friend and an ambassador of ours that's working with us, who uses that boot a lot, right? He's like, it's perfect for, you know, the Yukon, and, you know, it's been great, and that's fantastic, but it's been a little hard to position it, right? You know, what exactly is the core for that product? Because it doesn't look like a hunting boot, right?
Yeah, that's when Brandon's the first one in our office to have a pair, and I went, I don't think I can walk around in that. And he's like, no, dude, you got to get a pair.
It's very comfortable.
And it's unbelievable.
It's not stiff like an Alpine boot, even though it looks like one.
that way, though.
But it's wider last. It's soft on the midsole. It's like butter, man. It's very nice.
It does take some getting used to adjusting the BOA system, and I see on this one you have a double BOA system. Mine only has one turner.
So we've been doing more and more with the BOA. We had a couple of low-cut light hikers as well that we launched last year with the BOA on them, the Mamba line, which has been doing really well for us.
And the BOA is the lace system, right?
That's
and
the lace.
So it's got a cable that goes through it, and then it's got a bit of like a turn on it, or a turnbuckle that then tightens
That's
it down.
correct.
Yeah, okay.
That's correct. Yeah, and these cables, those are actually 49 individual aircraft-grade stainless steel cables
wow.
in there, right?
Wow, that's wild.
So this particular boot, now we had the 4014 Lynx Mid BOA is our kind of our camouflaged early season boot, right? That's a nubuck boot. It's got our 3D outsole on it. That was actually inspired by our 996 Vias, which is our overall best-selling boot worldwide, right? That's our number one boot. That's the boot that Corey Jacobson runs in, the Vias. So, you know, we had a lot of success with that. That is I'd say an 8-inch boot, right? So it's a mid-high boot, and it's got one BOA system, one BOA dial on it. Well, there's a new boot that Brian's got in his hands here. It's called the 3032 Uhl. Just remember the Uhl, right? And that's the god of, let me see if I can remember this right, the god of bow hunting and the god of archery and skiing.
Oh, wow.
Dual god, right? The Norse god of archery and skiing. So I got that right. I've known this stuff so well, and you take it for granted sometimes. It doesn't always pop back up in the mind. So the Uhl here is definitely a late season boot. So it's going to rival the Polar Hunter in terms of thermal efficiency, if not be better.
Yeah.
Yet it's constructed more for hardcore on mountain use. It doesn't have that soft midsole. It doesn't have the Arctic grip outsole. This is the same outsole as what's on our Wasatch. And it's very hardcore, right? So if you're doing late season sheep hunts and you're in the rock and whatnot, I mean, this is the boot for you. If you need an ultra warm insulated boot, this is really meant to set the standard globally in cold weather boots for hunting.
I can't believe how light these are too for the way they're built. Yeah.
Right. I mean, and so I'll take you through it a little bit. So we've got that Star Trek 2 outsole, which we love on here. It's a synthetic upper, fully synthetic upper. And it's got the dual BOA system on it. So the one on the heel, the dial on the heel here, that's meant to adjust for the lower half of the boot. Right. So you don't have to take your gloves off. You can adjust the fit, change it, take them off without taking your gloves off. You don't have to relace or worry about laces coming undone.
I was just going to ask you, what's the advantage of BOA? Because I have snowmobile boots that have BOAs, and I've been wearing them for 10 years. And the first pair had one BOA system, and they were so uncomfortable because you couldn't adjust what was happening on the bottom of your foot without adjusting what was happening around your calf.
Yeah, and BOA has these standards in place, right? So as we've become, a BOA brand, so to speak, using them more and more, initially in those first few models that come out, they are intricately involved with you in the design process, in the build and the R&D, and they have these rules in place. Just like Gore-Tex has a lot of rules in place with even what you can use for your shoelace material and all these other materials in your boot. And so with BOA, it's the same way. When you get to a certain height, you got to have two dials on it, right? So that you can have that customized fit, but so you're not cranking at the top and closing this in without any effect on the bottom.
Right.
And so you can run into that a little bit with the 4014 Lynx BOA. You got to kind of tug on the wire a little bit, to pull them up. So, taking that feedback and coming into the Uhl with this, that's why we've got the double BOA system on it here. So, the advantage is you get a better fit, a higher performance fit. You can lacing it up tighter without worrying about lace breakage. You can customize it, between the top and the bottom very easily, and it's a quick release. So you just pop out that dial and it's released, and you just pop off your boot. Right, all the time. You don't need to take your gloves off or anything, and it's very convenient. It's all about speed and convenience with the BOA.
So is there how do you do a warranty on this stuff? I know, 'cause I hear a lot of guys go, but I can't. If it breaks in the backcountry, I can't fix that with another shoelace.
Yeah, and we've had, going through all the warranty cases, we've had a few that have come up that way. But the way they're made, that first off, they're very high quality, right? Yeah. So the likelihood of it breaking is pretty low. You got to really crank on it to do that. You can even, fall and hit your foot on a rock, and this dial will literally pop off and come off, but you can just pop it right back on.
I've actually had that happen on my snowmobile.
Yeah, they're designed for that. To replace, like say if the cable breaks or the dial does actually break and you need to replace it, you just go to our website, go to our little search box on the bottom and type BOA in it, and then it'll tell you how to get a replacement pair for free. BOA, yeah. You can even, I don't know, they discourage it, but I shouldn't say this, but you can actually get a replacement pair ahead of time before it breaks, and have it in your pack, right? And with you if you need to. But they're pretty super easy to relace.
Oh, can you?
Yep.
I've never had that. I've never done that.
Yeah, you can do it in the field.
Oh, that's neat.
You can do it, you just run it through the channels here, and then there's a way to lock it in place there, and you just pop it on. It takes a few minutes.
That's good to know.
Yep.
And you always got a little cable in case you need it.
Yeah. Yeah, the wire. Sorry.
I'm tired of the guy I'm hunting with. I'm just taking him out.
So what's really unique about the Uhl, though, is the way it's insulated. So as a Gore-Tex brand, we use Gore-Tex insulated comfort membranes for our insulation in our insulated boots, and that confuses a lot of guys because every other brand in the world, they're like 500 gram, 1,200 gram, right? And that's how they describe it, and I get that. All of our other insulated boots that use Gore-Tex insulated comfort are basically 500 gram boots. So the Hunter Pro Evo, the Smilodon, or the Mastodon, all the others, 500 gram. Well, this has that 500 gram Gore-Tex insulated comfort in it, plus it has Primaloft on top of it.
In it?
On top of it. Yeah. So Primaloft is great because, especially in a boot, if it gets wet, the great thing about Primaloft versus like down or other insulated materials is that it maintains its thermal efficiency.
Right.
It maintains like 90% of it, even if it gets wet. So that's the nice thing about Primaloft. You add that on top of the Gore-Tex, and you've got something that's really, really, really hyper warm, for those extreme conditions. And then on top of it, what we do is something from our Alpine collection, is we put that thermal footbed that's lined with aluminum on the bottom. Yeah. It's not aluminum like you think, like like tin foil, right? It's not stiff or whatever, but it's whatever process they use to line that with that material.
So
it's
then
flexible.
It reflects.
Yep, and it reflects the heat back up into the boot from the bottom of the foot. So, if
That's
you're
cool.
standing on ice, you're not going to feel that ice. It's the heat's going to stay in. So yeah, that's new. And something else new from us this last year is we actually got into the logging boot business.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we dipping our toes in it.
Those guys are hard on stuff.
They are.
Really hard on
Yeah,
stuff.
they really are. And, and there's a lot of great legacy logging boot companies out there. When you're talking about, Whites or Danners or Georgia, there's a lot of great legacy brands there, but they tend to make product in the same way.
Yeah.
With that
same
big
boot that they were making in the 1800s.
That's right. That design has been around for a long time. And, and it's they take a while to break in. They can be uncomfortable. Once you get them broken in, guys love them. And they last for a very long time. You think about like a White's boot.
I have a pair from college that took me forever to break in.
They're
they
phenomenal.
still fit like a glove, though.
Yeah, they're phenomenal. They really are. And kudos to them. And they've got that market kind of, locked up. Well, we came in with a little different approach. So as we tend to do, let's innovate our way in here, so to speak. And it's, it looks like an Alpine boot from the outside, right?
That's what I thought was sitting over there.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it makes sense, though. You look at it and go, oh, yeah, that's a logging boot. I can see that.
Yeah, and it's this is called our 5011 logger, and it's ISO certified, and it's got a lot of different certifications to it. What's interesting about it is it's static proof, it's chainsaw proof, it's
chainsaw proof.
Chainsaw proof, yes.
Wow.
It's got an aramidtic layer in it that
Really?
prevents chainsaws. Yeah, I mean, if you took a chainsaw and ran it constantly and tried to cut through it, I mean, you could. But I mean, the point is,
it's not going to slip and whack your toe off.
Exactly. It's impossible, right? And you've got the composite toe box in it as well. It's like acts like a steel toe. So that ISO certification, I forget what it is offhand. Yeah, 17249 2013 level 3 AC 2014. Yeah.
Oh, I
For
know.
you guys,
I know that one. I know that exactly.
It actually comes with like a 20-page booklet in the box.
Really?
explaining
Explains
everything.
the whole
It does.
thing?
Yeah.
It has light reading.
And it's got, it's got the double tongue system in it, right? So you can adjust the fit of it depending on the conditions that you're in, hot or cold, and how many sock layers you're wearing. It's got the single leather upper on it, which is the ultra thick 3mm Prevanger leathers, and it's got the fiberglass midsole on it, which helps with the anti-static, and it's great. It's great as a line boot. It's fantastic as a line boot. A lot of linemen buy it, and we've been having really, really great feedback on it. We're not selling, thousands of them at this point, but it's, it's something new that's there, part of our work collection.
It's got a lip for the crampons, or I guess you wouldn't put crampons in.
It's fully automatic crampon compatible.
Yep.
Right. So if you're, in a winter situation, an icy situation, you can throw those crampons on, or as a lineman as well.
Yeah.
You're
for climbing boots.
Exactly.
Or for climbers.
right? So that's I brought that along. Just it's something
That's pretty
interesting.
cool.
What a great work boot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Way to think outside the box at
I'm actually
Zamberlan.
going,
Yeah.
I'm going to hang out with some linemen next weekend, and I'll bring. There's 7 of them, and they always ask me, "Oh, I need a new pair of boots," because they are hard on boots.
They
Linemen are because
Yep.
those spikes are rough.
Yeah, and we've got a host of other work boots that we don't bring in yet. We've got a great arborist shoe, which is actually based on this Salate, which is phenomenal. It's really out
Is it
there.
chainsaw proof too?
It's not chainsaw proof, no.
That's the craziest thing I've heard today. Chainsaw proof boot. Wait, what?
And then, of course, we've got our Wildland Fire boot, which we've been selling for a number of years. And all these, they have interesting origin stories to them, and that Wildland boot and how we developed that and how we came up with the side stitch on it. And I was actually in a skate shop in San Diego in Tilly's, right, with a buddy who was there picking up some stuff, and we were looking for ways to solve the delamination problem for Wildland Fire boots, and I've been working with Marco on this problem. And we saw a pair of Vans on the shelf, and they were side stitched through the rubber into the upper.
Oh, wow.
And I looked at that, and I took a photo, and I texted it to Marco, and I said, Marco, does Vibram have a fireproof outsole that has the side stitch wall on it? He's like, I'll get back to you. And a couple days later, he got back to me. He's like, here it is. I've got it. And there it
Holy
was.
cow.
And that was like the inspiration for that design that came about.
That's
and
cool.
it was, so
So
we've
fun
done a
to
number of
hear some of
iterations
those,
on that. Yeah.
those backstories. So, last, Phil, like,
That was
how
like
are,
10 years ago.
How are you guys dealing with inflation? Like, it's been crazy and running rampant here
Right.
lately. Like, what are you guys doing to help control inflation on pricing and things of that nature?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think everyone is kind of getting to know the fact that inflation's here.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And it's
It's not transitory.
And
just
I think
getting started,
7.5% is BS. I read that this morning. I was like, no, there's no way. Maybe across the board that could be an average, but
yeah. Well, you look at gasoline's like 49%.
Yeah.
Home energy and utilities are like 18%. I want to say.
Yeah.
I have that infographic on my phone. I just went through an interesting seminar with an economics firm recently who laid it all out. You look at, food prices are 7%,
Yeah.
right? And you start looking at those things and breaking it down, and it's scary, and it's changing day by day.
yeah.
And and then in our end, it's the same, right? So like I was mentioning to you earlier, I mean, we put in the order for leather, and 8 weeks later, when it's ready to deliver, that's when they quote us the price, and they say this is what you'll pay, and it's like if we don't want to pay it, then we don't make boots that day, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
it's like, you
Jeez.
kind of have to run with it, and all the materials are going in that direction. Even the Vibram outsoles, you name it, everything is headed there. And and labor is also, we're seeing inflation with labor
Yeah.
as well, and being able to hire enough people and to run those new production
Well, and
lines
those
that
people are
we've built.
buying food and gas and everything else you
That's
talked
right.
about. They're having to do stuff with that.
That's right. And so if you look at it, I mean, just even in the last 60 days or so, I mean, from a gross margin perspective, we've been almost annihilated.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, threw around numbers like 500 basis points of gross margin erosion in a short time period. And it's like, man, we're getting nailed. And we just raised prices by 5% on January 1st in response to the inflation we were seeing last year.
Gosh.
Right. And so it's always lagging with us, right? So it's, all of my production is basically done for spring.
Right.
So, the inflation that we're realizing now is what's going to hit for the fall production.
Next year,
The
yeah.
fall product, yeah. So how do we try to mitigate that for the consumer is rather than anticipating those increases and increasing prices again right now, is we're holding off those price increases again till fall. So you're going to see another round come July 1.
So the point is, if you've been thinking about a Zamberlan pair of boots, you better buy them now.
Yeah, if you can get your hand on them, right? It's all about the supply there. And so we're doing the best that we can, obviously producing at higher capacity is, reducing overhead prepare and so forth. And so that's helping mitigate the effect. But we've been absorbing a lot of it, and we try to be that buffer between, what's happening on the supply side and what's happening with the consumer. But, you can only take so much, before you start shooting yourself in the foot, so to speak. And so it's, for us, we take it very seriously. We work very hard on this problem, and you're doing everything that you can on the corporate side with buying futures and so forth.
Right.
And, one thing that's helped us offset this, and prevent even further immediate price increases has been the exchange rate, which has been favorable because the dollar's been strong.
Right. Right.
So that's helped us out because we're importing the product from Italy. So that's been good. But that can change
Yep.
as well as the political
Yep.
environment changes in the world. So I think being here in the U.S. with the U.S. dollar and buying in U.S. dollars and selling in U.S. dollars, I've been relatively stable, but the U.S. has always been a flight to safety, for the world in times of turmoil, and I think that bodes well for us, and we're going to always try to keep that positioning.
Yeah, you guys are the leader in the industry, Philip, and every time I sit down with you, you have such a high-level understanding of boots and shoes that me and Ike both learn so much sitting in these podcasts that we'll be quoting you all weekend long at dinner
For the next year.
And for the next year,
Yeah,
we'll
I'll be sitting at a
quoting
camp
you.
next fall
Yeah.
going, oh, no. You know why? Let me see that footbed. I'm going to show you something.
Yeah, it makes us look really smart, so I really appreciate it. No, but
Well, I'm glad I'm coming off that way.
I really appreciate the relationship between you and Eastman's. Appreciate the products that you guys are coming up with, and I'm just so pumped for the next season to be using your products. So thanks again for coming on. Ike, closing thoughts?
No, I just I just love your boots. Absolutely
you.
love your boots.
Me
I
too.
love what you guys are doing, and I'm just glad that we're part of it. So
Yep.
thanks.
Closing
Likewise.
thoughts?
Not a lot. I would say, just get out there,
Yeah.
right? I mean, the outdoors is something that we have, that we own, and, we have to take accountability for it. And I would encourage everybody to get involved in whatever organization you feel is best for you. I've slowly started getting involved in, backcountry hunters, anglers.
Me
and,
too. Yep.
Yeah, and so that's been good for me, and slowly but surely, and Zomblin's always been involved with like the Mule Deer Foundation, Sportsmen for Fish and Wildlife, and
Yep.
and other organizations, and as well as the Hunt Expo here, which is a conservation expo, which a lot of people don't realize, but it's all about conservation here. But I would encourage everybody to get out there, use your public lands, hunt, share your voice, express it, let people know what you do, why you do it. And what inspires you, and stand up and be counted for.
Yep.
That would be my closing thought.
Ah, really well said. You nailed it. All right, thank you, Philip.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Always a pleasure.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. Thanks again for Phil making time to jump on the podcast and help educate us on boots and shoes and everything footwear. So I'm really excited for this season. There's just nothing like having a good fitting pair of boots or shoes. I just cover the miles and just seem to click off easy. Elevation, side hilling, without much foot fatigue. So stoked to be using these Salas. Also going to use the GTX and maybe try out the 320 Trail Light GTX. And then also I may try out some of these new ones, the new low cut hiking boot that we checked out on this one. So I'll let you guys know what I think on them. But yeah, just an awesome product, and really happy to be partnered with them. So thanks again to Phil from Zamberlan Boots. Thanks again to Swagger. They build great bipods and shooting sticks that give you a super solid rest for shooting out west. And thanks to Eastman's for their support. Make sure to check out everything we're doing over there. And with that, boy, it's cold outside today. -10 here in Montana. Winter showed back up. But I'm going to layer up. I might have to leave my dog at home today. It's a little cold for him and his paws. It may freeze those things off. And not that he can't handle the cold, but it's pretty brutal outside. It's not only that. There's a north wind that's blowing about 20 or so, 25. So that wind chill's got to be way below zero. But get out for a run. And we had some springtime weather before this showed up. So I know spring's going to get here eventually. And I think it's going to warm up here towards next week or something like that. So we'll just keep struggling through, but get in a good snow cold run today, and man, keep shooting. I've got some sweet new arrows built up that I'll be talking about here on the podcast. I'm going to do one where I go over my bow setup and my arrows and weight and just my theories on broadheads and arrows, and everybody has an opinion and what's important to them. And so yeah, I just want to get that out in a podcast. I got a bunch of great ones coming up for you guys. Can't wait. We had Robbie Denning back on. I got a great one with Matt Singer and Dan Picard. And I got to run back over to the Eastman's office later this week. So I'll see if I can get an extra recording over there with Dan or Dan does so good, like just my bow hunting brother over there at Eastman. So we'll see if we can get him back on and just keep getting you guys some quality recordings. So as always, I really appreciate the support. It was really nice to meet some of you guys at the expo, shake hands and talk hunting. And I just appreciate listening to this podcast, recommending it to your buddies, and then also sharing it on social media. All that helps. Also, the reviews on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts helps promote the podcast and push other people to it. So I appreciate you guys. And with that, check in with you next week.